The school cafeteria was dressed up like a magazine spread. Balloons in primary colors, a family appreciation banner strung across the bulletin board, muffins arranged on the table like jewelry in a display case. I was sliding into a folding chair near the back when the teacher clapped her hands for attention. "Let's give a big round of applause for Mom and Dad," she said, her voice bright and enthusiastic. And she pointed past me, over my head, like I wasn't even there. To the Hollises, my son's foster parents, already standing at the front of the room with practiced smiles. Saints greeting their congregation. Foster mom wrapped her arms around my little boy and said sweetly, loud enough for everyone to hear, "He's just thriving with us, absolutely thriving." People clapped, genuine, warm, believing the story they were being told. My son blinked at me from across the room, his small face confused, like he wasn't sure where he was supposed to look, who he was supposed to belong to. Foster dad leaned down and whispered something into my son's hair. I couldn't hear it from where I sat, but my son's face changed, got smaller somehow. Then foster dad straightened and smiled at the crowd. "Go on, buddy," he said gently. "Call her Rowan, you're a big boy now." I kept my smile glued on like it was the only thing holding my face together. My hands were folded so tightly in my lap, my knuckles turned white. "My name is Rowan Mercer. I'm 38 years old, American. And I've lived the kind of life where you don't get rescued, you get judged. I agreed to temporary foster placement 4 months ago when my lease fell apart and my work hours got cut. I did everything the system told me to do. Stability first, reunification plan. Weekly supervised visits. The Hollises had promised at the beginning, "We'll partner with you, Rowan. We're here to support reunification." But their public smile today felt different. It felt like a claim being staked, like territory being marked. My caseworker, Sarah, was standing against the wall. She caught my eye and immediately looked away. Then her phone came out. She typed something and hit send. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Her text read, "We need to talk after this." My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever started with, "We need to talk," from a caseworker. A volunteer with a camera hustled to the front of the room. "Let's get a group photo. All the families." The Hollises pulled my son into the center of the shot like they were framing a picture, and I wasn't part of the composition. "Come on, Rowan," foster mom chirped, waving me forward. "Stand on the side. Better lighting over there. On the side. Not next to my son. Not in the center. On the edge where I could be cropped out later." My son reached for my hand as I approached. His small fingers stretched toward me. Foster dad gently redirected him, put a hand on his shoulder, turned him back toward the camera. "Let's not confuse him today, okay? Big smile, buddy." Confuse him. I felt my lungs freeze mid-breath. I'm his mother. I'm not the confusion. I'm the constant. The camera flashed, people smiled. The moment was preserved forever with me on the edge, barely in frame. The teacher walked past me after the photo and tilted her head. Her voice was gentle, pitying. "Oh," she said, "I didn't realize you were still involved." Still involved. Like I was a former babysitter, not his mother. I bent down to my son's level after the photo, got on my knees so we were eye to eye. "Hey, buddy," I whispered. "I'm right here. I'm always right here." His eyes brightened for a second, that spark of recognition and love that still existed between us. Then his eyes flicked away, toward foster mom's face, like he was checking if he was allowed to be happy to see me. Foster mom laughed softly, that practiced, gentle sound that made her seem so reasonable. "He's been having such a hard time with transitions lately. Poor thing gets so confused." Transitions. That was their word for me, for my presence in his life. I wasn't his mother anymore. I was a transition, a disruption, a source of confusion. Foster dad stepped forward and rested his hand on my son's head. Proprietary, protective. He smiled at the teacher and said conversationally, like he was discussing the weather, "We're actually exploring permanency options through the courts. We think it might be best for everyone." Permanency. The word hit me like cold water. They weren't fostering temporarily. They were building a case to keep him. That afternoon, I checked the online visitation calendar like I did every day. My Sunday visit, the one I'd confirmed twice, was gone. Deleted, replaced with a new entry, family time, Hollis household. Family time, with my son, on my scheduled day. I called my caseworker immediately, straight to voicemail. I texted the Hollises, tried to keep my message calm, professional. Hi, I noticed my Sunday visit was removed from the calendar. Was there a schedule change? Foster mom replied within seconds. Oh no, must be a system glitch. We already made plans for Sunday though. Maybe we can reschedule? Plans. With my son. Without asking me. I stared at my phone, trying to decide how to respond without sounding aggressive, without giving them ammunition. Before I could type anything, a new email notification appeared. Subject line, CPS team meeting, mandatory attendance. Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. No explanation, just the time and location. My hands started shaking. The CPS meeting room smelled like stale coffee and old carpet cleaner. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The walls were beige and bare except for mandatory reporting posters. My caseworker Sarah sat across from me with legal representatives and a supervisor I'd never met. Clipboards, professional faces, polite distance. Sarah wouldn't meet my eyes when I walked in. Thank you for coming, Rowan, the supervisor said. Her voice was carefully neutral. We've had some concerns reported. We wanted to address them directly. My throat went dry. Concerns? What concerns? Sarah cleared her throat, looked at her notes instead of at me. The foster parents have observed emotional distress in your son following visits with you. My stomach dropped straight through the floor. Emotional distress. My son cried after our visits because he missed me, because he wanted to come home, because being separated from your mother is traumatic, but they were calling it distress, making it sound like I was causing harm. The supervisor slid a paper across the table. Official letterhead. Clinical language. Based on these observations, our recommendation is to temporarily reduce visitation frequency for the child's emotional well-being. I read the words like they were written in a foreign language. My brain refused to translate. Reduce visitation. Temporarily. That's not part of my reunification plan, I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. My plan says weekly visits. I've been following everything. The supervisor smiled, not unkind, but firm. We have to follow the child's best interest, Rowan, and right now, the data suggests less frequent contact might reduce his anxiety. Data. They were reducing me to data points. The Hollises sat in chairs along the wall, calm, hands folded, sorrowful expressions that looked rehearsed in a mirror. Foster mom dabbed at the corner of her eye with a tissue. We just want him to feel safe, she whispered. Safe. From me. His mother. We understand this is difficult, the supervisor continued, but we'll reassess after a home visit. We need to verify your current living situation is still stable. It is stable, nothing's changed. Then the home visit should go smoothly. She smiled like she'd solved a problem. We'll schedule it for next week. I went straight to work after the meeting, sitting at my desk like my body had forgotten how to move. My hands rested on the keyboard without typing. I'm not a lawyer, not a fighter, not someone who knows how to navigate the system that was supposed to help me. But my job had taught me something important. I work as an operations compliance coordinator in a healthcare billing office. Not glamorous, not impressive, but realistic. Boring, unforgiving. In my world, if something isn't written down with a timestamp and a signature, it didn't happen. Documentation was everything. Evidence was power. So I opened a new folder on my personal drive. Labeled it Visits, Calls, Changes. I started documenting everything. Dates of visits, times, who was present, what was said, screenshots of the scheduling system, copies of every email, every text message. Calm language, no emotion, just facts. My email pinged, new message from the Hollises. Subject, quick signature needed before Sunday. My chest tightened. At my next supervised visit 3 days later, foster dad appeared with a clipboard, like he was the professional. Like this was his office and I was the client. Just routine, he said, smiling that reasonable smile. Acknowledgement of behavior guidelines, standard protocol. I took the clipboard and read carefully. The document stated that I agreed not to mention coming home during visits, not to ask about school activities, not to discuss family roles or relationships. They were trying to reduce me to a stranger, a visitor with no authority, no connection beyond supervised playtime. I'm not signing this, I said quietly. Foster dad's smile didn't waver. These are just boundaries to help your son feel secure. These aren't boundaries. This is erasure. Foster mom appeared beside him. Her voice was soft, sweet, deadly. Then we'll need to document your non-cooperation. For the caseworker. Non-cooperation. Another word to add to my file, another mark against me. My son whispered to me during the visit while the supervisor was across the room talking to foster mom. They said you forgot me. My stomach turned over. Who said that, buddy? His eyes got big and scared. I'm not supposed to tell. I kept my voice gentle even though my heart was pounding. I would never forget you. Not ever. Do you understand me? He nodded hard, like he was trying to convince himself, trying to hold on to the truth against whatever lies they'd been feeding him. Across the room, foster mom chatted with the supervisor, laughing about something, relaxed, like this was casual, like she wasn't destroying a child's relationship with his mother. The supervisor glanced over at us. Her expression changed immediately. She walked over, her voice professional and concerned. Rowan, you're upsetting him. Please keep interactions positive. My son wasn't upset. He was finally relaxed. Finally himself. But his eyes were red. And that was enough for them. The CPS home visitor arrived at my apartment the following Tuesday with a clipboard and professionally kind eyes. My place was spotless. I'd cleaned for 2 days straight. New bedding on my son's bed. Food stocked in labeled containers. Outlet covers on every socket like I was auditioning for Mother of the Year. She walked through slowly, opened cupboards, checked the refrigerator, looked at smoke detectors and window locks. Then she paused at my son's room, the small bedroom I'd set up with his favorite colors, his stuffed animals arranged on the bed. Who helped you set this up? She asked. I did it, alone. She nodded, but her pen didn't move, didn't record my answer. The foster parents mentioned your housing situation was unstable again, that you'd had issues with your landlord. My blood went cold. That's not true. So your lease is current? Yes, absolutely. She made a note. We'll need to verify that. I stepped into the hallway and pulled out my phone, called my landlord on speaker right there while the home visitor watched. Hi, Mr. Chen. Quick question. Is my lease current? He sounded annoyed at being bothered. Yes, paid through next month like always. Why? Just confirming for a record. Thank you. I hung up and looked at the home visitor. Her eyes flickered with something. Recognition, maybe. Or doubt about what she'd been told. She finally wrote something down. As she was packing up to leave, my phone buzzed. A voicemail notification. I played it on speaker without thinking. Foster mom's voice filled my small apartment. Hi, Rowan. Just checking in. If you just cooperate with the guidelines, we could make this whole process so much smoother for everyone. For your son especially. Call me back when you can. Smoother, like they were sanding me down, smoothing away my rough edges, my rights, my motherhood. The home visitor's expression shifted slightly, but she didn't say anything, just finished her notes and left. That evening, my caseworker texted, Judge wants updates. Court review has been moved up. Sunday morning, I saw the Hollises at church. They were surrounded by people. A small crowd of admirers. Foster mom hugged an older woman and said loudly enough for half the lobby to hear, We're just praying for his real family situation, hoping it resolves peacefully. Real family. Like they were more real than me. I stood behind a pillar near the entrance and listened. I couldn't help it. Foster dad was talking to a couple I recognized. We're open to adoption if it comes to that. We've grown so attached. He calls us mom and dad now. The couple told them how brave they were. How selfless. What a blessing they were to this child who needed stability. I felt my hands shake, but I didn't confront them. Didn't march over and correct the record. Not here. Not in public, where they had the advantage. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Mrs. Davies from the school. The counselor requested a meeting with you. Thursday 3 p.m. Concerns about your son. The school counselor's office was small and cluttered with motivational posters. She spoke gently, like she was handling something fragile. I wanted to talk to you about something your son has been saying, she began. He's been telling me he has 2 moms. I'm his mom, I said. The Hollises are his foster parents. She nodded awkwardly. Of course, I understand, but he seems confused about the roles. He says the foster mom tells him you're more like a big sister for now. That his situation is temporary. My vision tunneled. Everything went dark at the edges. They were rewriting our relationship, in his mind, in everyone's mind. Can I see your notes? I asked. The records of these conversations? She hesitated. I don't usually share case notes. I'm his mother. I have a right to know what's being documented about him. Another pause. Then she printed a few pages. I read through them carefully. Most of it was routine, developmental milestones, social interactions. Then at the bottom of the third page, one line made my blood stop. Child reports, I'm not supposed to love her too much. A receptionist at the school pulled me aside as I was leaving. She glanced around nervously before speaking. I probably shouldn't say this, she whispered, but the foster parents have been coming in a lot, asking for copies of everything, birth certificate information, enrollment documents. My throat tightened. Why would they need that? I don't know, but it felt like... She hesitated, like they were preparing for something, building a file. I thanked her and walked out on shaking legs, sat in my car in the parking lot and tried to breathe until my hands stopped trembling. That evening, a knock on my door. Certified letter, requiring signature. I signed for it with numb fingers. Inside was legal paperwork, official court documents. The Hollises had filed a petition for extended placement, citing attachment issues and maternal inconsistency. They'd written about my missed phone calls, the ones they'd blocked, about my son's tears caused by their manipulation, about my unstable housing, a complete lie. They wanted the court to believe I was a storm and they were shelter. My caseworker Sarah called the next morning. Her voice was cautious. Rowan, I need to ask you something. Do you have anyone who can speak on your behalf? Character references? Employers? Anyone who can verify your stability? Why? The court hearing is in 2 weeks. The Hollises have submitted statements from their pastor, their neighbors, the school. You need people who can counter their narrative. I felt panic rising. I have people, my manager, my landlord. Get them to write letters, detailed ones, dates, examples, make it concrete. After I hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Then I called my manager. She answered on the second ring. Rowan, everything okay? I need a favor, a big one. My manager, Patricia, pulled me into her office the next day. I was braced for bad news, for more problems. Instead, she said, I've been watching you these past few months. You've been clocking in early every day. I've seen you take calls in the stairwell during lunch. Personal calls, difficult ones. I didn't know what to say. Do you need a letter verifying your employment stability? Your reliability? I could barely speak. Just nodded. She pulled up my file on her computer, printed my attendance records, performance reviews, 6 months of perfect punctuality and consistently high-quality work. Then she wrote a letter, right there, describing me as reliable, consistent, professional, someone who never missed a deadline even during personal crisis. You're fighting for your kid, aren't you? She said. I nodded again. Then fight with everything you have. That night, my caseworker emailed. New allegation has been added to the file. The allegation stated that I had appeared intoxicated during a supervised visit 2 weeks ago. I read it 3 times, then laughed once. A sharp, disbelieving sound. Then the rage came, cold and clear. This wasn't just false. This was a weapon designed to destroy me. I immediately emailed the visitation center. Requested footage from that day. Requested the supervisor's notes. The center's reply came within an hour. We do not release video or documentation without proper legal authorization. I forwarded everything to my caseworker, called her, left a voicemail. She called back hours later. Her voice was tight, worried. Rowan, I can't tell you what to do, but this allegation is serious. The judge might order a temporary stay on all visits pending investigation. It's a lie, I know, but proving that takes time. And time isn't on our side right now. In court, the Hollises sat with matching outfits, coordinated, like they'd planned this performance carefully. Foster mom cried softly at exactly the right moments, dabbed her eyes with tissues, looked devastated by the whole situation. Their attorney stood and spoke with confident authority. Your Honor, this child is thriving in a stable, loving environment. Continued reunification attempts are causing documented emotional distress. We're asking the court to prioritize the child's well-being over theoretical reunification. Theoretical, like my motherhood was a hypothesis, not a fact. My attorney presented our evidence, my employment letters, my housing verification, the timeline showing the Hollises' pattern of manipulation. The judge skimmed the documents, frowned at some of them, but not at the Hollises, at me. This is complex, he said finally. I'll need time to review all submitted materials thoroughly. My stomach dropped. He shuffled papers. Until then, to maintain stability for the child, visitation will remain supervised and reduced to once every 2 weeks. Reduced visitation hit like a physical blow, once every 2 weeks. Half of what I'd fought so hard to maintain. At the next visit, my son clung to me immediately, sobbing into my coat, his small body shaking. "I miss you," he cried. "I miss you so much." Foster dad stood behind the supervisor, expression calm, almost bored, like this was routine. Foster mom whispered to my son loud enough for everyone to hear. "See, buddy, the judge said this is better for you. The judge knows best," using the judge as their shield, their authority. I knelt down and held my son's face in my hands. "This isn't forever, I promise you." The supervisor's voice was sharp. "Rowan, don't promise him things. You're setting him up for disappointment." My son's tears soaked through my shirt. He whispered against my neck, voice shaking. "They said you're going to disappear. Like other moms do." After the visit ended, foster mom cornered me in the parking lot. The supervisor had already left. My son was being buckled into their car. Foster mom's smile was locked in place, sweet as sugar, deadly as poison. "If you really loved him," she said softly, "you'd stop fighting. You'd let him have stability. A real family." I didn't respond, didn't give her the reaction she wanted. Then her smile slipped. Just for a second, and I saw what was underneath. Not kindness. Possession. "We already have his room painted at our house," she said. "Blue, his favorite color. He calls me mommy sometimes now, when he's tired or scared. It just happens naturally." My blood turned to ice. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "And if you push too hard, if you make this uglier than it needs to be, we'll tell them you're unstable again. We'll tell them whatever we need to." The threat was clear, explicit. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. "This is Denise from the visitation center," a woman's voice said. "I probably shouldn't be calling you directly, but I need to tell you something." My heart stuttered. "What?" She hesitated. "I can't officially advise you, but I've been supervising visits for 8 years, and I've noticed irregularities with your case." "What kind?" "The foster parents have requested multiple schedule changes. Then they've reported you as late or non-compliant when you showed up at the originally scheduled time. The time you were never told had changed." I gripped the phone tighter. "I've been documenting it," she continued. "Times, dates, what was said. The discrepancies between what they report and what actually happens." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because it's not right. And because the court can subpoena our internal records if your attorney requests them specifically." After I hung up, I sat in the dark and cried. Not from weakness, from relief. Someone had seen it. Someone had been paying attention. At the next hearing, my attorney requested the visitation center's complete logs and the school's communication records. The Hollises looked calm, confident. They'd practiced this performance for weeks, until the judge asked, "Mr. and Mrs. Hollis, can you explain why multiple visits were changed without proper notification to the biological mother?" Foster dad started his smooth explanation. The reasonable voice, the practiced excuses, and the visitation center records contradicted him. Line by line, date by date, documented proof of schedule changes never communicated, of reports filed claiming I was late when I'd arrived at the original time, of manipulation disguised as procedure. Foster mom's smile trembled. My attorney presented the school counselor's notes, the receptionist's statement about document requests, the pattern of preparation for permanent placement while claiming to support reunification. The judge's expression changed, hardened. He looked directly at foster mom. "Did you instruct the child to call you mommy?" Foster mom tried to cry her way through it, tears on command. "We never forced anything. He chose that himself. Children naturally bond." The judge held up a page, the school counselor's note, read it aloud. "Child reports, I'm not supposed to love her too much." The courtroom went silent. Heavy, final. Foster dad interrupted. Too fast, too sharp. His control was slipping. "Your Honor, children misunderstand things. He probably—" "I'm not finished," the judge said. His voice cut through the room like a blade. He reviewed more documents, the timeline my attorney had built, the evidence of lies, of manipulation, of systematic erasure. Foster dad's jaw clenched. Foster mom's hands twisted in her lap. The judge's eyes narrowed. "This court does not reward parental alienation. This court does not support foster placements that actively undermine reunification plans." He turned to me. His expression was different now. Seeing me clearly for the first time, "Miss Mercer," he said, "are you ready to bring your son home?" I didn't gloat, didn't celebrate in their faces, didn't say the things I'd imagined saying for months. I just breathed, like I'd been underwater and finally broke the surface. "Yes," I said, "I'm ready." The judge ordered immediate reunification transition, structured, monitored, but fast, because now the danger was clear. Not from me, from them. 3 days later, my son walked into my apartment with his little backpack. His eyes darted around like he was afraid this was temporary. Another trick. Another false promise. I knelt down and held his cheeks gently. "This is home, your real home, and I'm not going anywhere, ever." He threw his arms around my neck and cried, but these were different tears. Relief, safety, home. Behind us, legally supervised, the Hollises stood in my doorway for the mandated transition observation. Their public smiles were gone, replaced by something small, bitter, powerless. That night, after they'd left, after my son was asleep in his own bed, my phone lit up, a message from foster mom, "You think you won." My hands didn't shake as I typed back, "I didn't think, I proved." Then I blocked her number and deleted the thread, because she wasn't part of our story anymore. We were home.